When you're gone, they'll realize what you brought. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. People don't always see what's right in front of them. They get used to the light you shine, the strength you bring, the love you pour out like it'll never run dry. But the day you step away, the day you decide to stop giving what they took for granted, that's when it hits them. That's when they look around and realize the warmth is gone, the foundation is shaken, and the blessings they never acknowledged are nowhere to be found. You see, we live in a world where people confuse convenience with permanence. They think because you're always there, you'll always be there. But life doesn't work that way, does it? Your time, your energy, your love, they're not unlimited resources. And when you finally take them back, you leave behind a silence so loud, it forces people to confront the truth. They were blind to what you brought to the table. They were blind to what you brought and then killed who was alive tonight. So today I'm here to remind you of one thing. You are not ordinary. What you bring into people's lives, your loyalty, your vision, your sacrifices, that's rare. And if someone can't see that while you're standing right there, then understand this. Time will be your witness, because when you're gone, they'll feel the absence of everything you gave, everything you stood for, and everything they once ignored. And by then, it'll be too late. The power of presence. Let me ask you this. How many times have you shown up, given your all, and poured out your heart, only for it to feel unnoticed? How many times have your sacrifices gone unacknowledged, as if your presence was a given, as if your light was just part of the scenery? This is the weight of carrying greatness quietly, of being a blessing in disguise. Your presence holds a power that others often fail to see while it's still in their midst. But the truth is, when you're gone, the weight of what you brought to the table becomes undeniable. You see, there's something extraordinary about presence. It's not just about being physically there. It's about the energy you bring, the solutions you offer, the love you radiate. Your presence has a way of shaping spaces, shifting atmospheres, and making things better just because you're there. But here's the catch. People often don't recognize that power. Why? Because they're used to it. They're used to you showing up. They're used to your consistency. They're used to the way you hold things together without ever asking for applause. Think about the sun. It rises every single day without fail, providing warmth, light, and life. But how often do we stop and truly appreciate it? It's only when the sun sets, when darkness falls, that we realize just how much we depend on its presence. That's what your presence is like. You're the light that people take for granted, the steady force that keeps things moving, the glue that holds things together. How then can that calm king come to invade your life for a moment and make it in turn you? And when you step away, when your light sets, that's when people start to feel the cold, to notice the cracks, to realize the void. But here's where it gets tricky. It's not your job to convince people of your value while you're there. It's not your role to beg for recognition or to prove over and over again what you're worth. Because the truth is, people who don't appreciate you now might never fully understand until they experience life without you. And that's okay. Let that lesson come to them in its own time. You don't need their acknowledgement to validate your worth. Your job is to keep being the powerful presence you are. Keep showing up with integrity, with love, with strength. Not for their approval, but because that's who you are. And know this, the power of your presence leaves a mark, whether people recognize it today or tomorrow. Your actions, your kindness, your contributions, they plant seeds. And even if those seeds don't bloom in the soil of gratitude, they still grow into undeniable evidence of what you brought into this world. But let me warn you, there will be moments when people try to test your resolve. They'll act like you're replaceable, like someone else can do what you do, be who you are. Don't fall for it. You are not replaceable. Sure, someone might come along and try to mimic what you bring, but they'll never have your heart, your vision, your unique fingerprint on everything you touch. That's why your presence is so powerful, because it can't be duplicated. And here's the beautiful part. When you step back, when you finally stop giving where there's no appreciation, that's when people start to wake up. They'll feel the difference. They'll look for the warmth you provided, the strength you carried, the solutions you offered, and they won't find it. And in that moment, they'll realize your presence wasn't just a part of their lives, it was the foundation holding it all together. So don't waste your time begging anyone to see your value. Walk in your power, knowing that your presence speaks louder than words. And if people fail to hear it now, trust that time will amplify your message. Because when you're gone, when the light you brought fades from their world, they'll finally see the truth. You were never just there. You were a force, a blessing, and a light that made all the difference. Lessons in loss. There's a saying that hindsight is 20/20/. It's only when something or someone is gone that we often realize just how much they mattered. Loss has a way of sharpening our vision, forcing us to see what was hidden in plain sight. And let me tell you, nothing teaches a person more about value than absence. The lessons in loss hit harder than any words ever could. When you're no longer there, when you finally walk away or life takes you in a different direction, the void you leave behind becomes a mirror for those who remain. It reflects back all the things they ignored, dismissed, or took for granted. The late-night conversations you were always available for, the sacrifices you made without being asked, the way you held them together when they were falling apart. It all becomes clear in the silence of your absence. Loss has a way of waking people up, but here's the thing. That awakening isn't for you, it's for them, and it's often long overdue. You see, the human heart is a curious thing. It often underestimates the value of what it has until it's no longer within reach. When you're present, giving, loving, helping, it's easy for people to fall into the trap of thinking that you'll always be there. They assume your kindness is infinite, your energy unbreakable, your time endless. But there's a limit to everything, isn't there? And when that limit is reached, when you remove yourself from the equation, the lesson begins. Loss teaches people about effort. When you're no longer the one holding things together, they're forced to step up or watch it all crumble. When you're not the one initiating, they realize how much of the relationship or dynamic depended on you. And when they can no longer rely on your presence, they start to see how much of a difference you truly made. The lessons in loss are uncomfortable, they sting, but they are necessary for growth, for them and for you. But let's not forget, this isn't just about the lessons others learn in your absence. There's a lesson here for you, too. When you step back, you're giving yourself the gift of clarity. You begin to see who truly valued you and who only appreciated what you could do for them. You start to understand the strength of your contributions and the importance of guarding your energy. Loss teaches you about boundaries, about self-worth, and about the freedom that comes with letting go of what no longer serves you. Here's the hard truth. Not everyone will recognize your value even after you're gone. Some people are so caught up in their own worlds that they might never reflect, never realize, never change, and that's okay. Their inability to see your worth says more about them than it ever will about you. Don't let their blindness dim your light or make you question what you brought to the table. You are still whole, still worthy, still enough. And for those who do recognize what they've lost, let them. Let them sit with that realization. Let them wrestle with the regret. Let them learn from it. But don't allow it to pull you back into spaces you've outgrown. The purpose of loss isn't to drag you backward, it's to propel you forward. It's a turning point, a moment of clarity that allows everyone involved to grow if they choose to. Life has a way of moving on, and so should you. Focus on the path ahead, on the opportunities and relationships that align with the person you are becoming. Because here's the thing, you were never meant to stay where you weren't valued. Your purpose, your gifts, your light, they're too important to be wasted in spaces where they're not cherished. Loss is a powerful teacher. It teaches those who remain about gratitude, effort, and the irreplaceable nature of a presence like yours. And it teaches you about resilience, self-respect, and the importance of moving forward. So let the lessons in loss unfold. Trust that the void you leave will be the greatest lesson they never expected. And trust that the road ahead is leading you to something even greater. Unseen strength. There's a kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't boast, doesn't demand recognition. It's the quiet strength of showing up every day, of carrying the weight that no one else sees. It's the strength of putting others first, of holding things together when everything feels like it's falling apart. And yet, this kind of strength, the strength you've carried, is often overlooked. People see the results, but they don't see the effort. They benefit from your sacrifice, but they don't acknowledge the cost. They admire the calm you bring, but they don't recognize the storm you've weathered to create it. This is the reality of unseen strength. It's not flashy, it doesn't seek validation, it simply gets the job done. You've been the backbone for others, the one who solves the problems, who keeps things moving, who stays steady when the world feels chaotic. But here's the truth. People rarely understand the depth of that strength until it's gone, until you're no longer there to catch them, to lift them, to guide them. They'll never truly grasp just how much you carried. Let me tell you something. Your strength is a gift. It's what makes you extraordinary. But too often, the strongest people are the ones who are taken for granted. You're the one who everyone relies on, yet they assume you'll always have it together. They don't see the nights you lie awake, the tears you wipe away in private, the moments you question whether you can keep going. They don't see the times you feel empty, but still find a way to give, because that's what unseen strength does. It pushes through, even when it feels like there's nothing left to give. But just because your strength is unseen doesn't mean it's unimportant. In fact, it's the opposite. Your strength is what holds everything together. It's the foundation that others build on, the anchor that keeps the ship steady in rough waters. And when you're gone, and you finally step away or decide that enough is enough, people feel the loss of that strength immediately. They feel the weight you carried shift onto their shoulders, and they realize just how heavy it was. And here's what happens next. They start to appreciate what they had. They start to understand that your strength wasn't a given, that it wasn't something they were entitled to. They see the cracks that appear when you're no longer there to hold everything up. They feel the absence of your calm, your wisdom, your unshakable presence. And it's in that moment, in the silence of your absence, that they realize the true depth of your strength. But let me ask you this. Why should it take your absence for people to value your strength? Why should you have to reach a breaking point before others recognize what you bring? The answer is simple. It shouldn't. You deserve to be seen, to be appreciated, to be supported just as much as you support others. And if the people around you can't give you that, it's a sign that you need to reevaluate where you're pouring your energy. Unseen strength is powerful, but it's not limitless. Even the strongest people need rest. Even the ones who seem unshakable need support. And it's not weakness to acknowledge that. In fact, it's a testament to your wisdom. Strength isn't about how much you can endure. It's about knowing when to step back, when to protect your peace. So let them learn the hard way. Let them feel the absence of your strength when you're no longer there to hold things together. Let them understand that your strength wasn't just a convenience, it was a gift. And in the meantime, focus on yourself. Pour into your own cup. Build your own dreams. Because here's the thing, your strength deserves to be celebrated, not exploited. It deserves to be cherished, not taken for granted. Unseen strength is a quiet force, but it leaves an undeniable mark. When you're gone, they'll realize what you brought: your resilience, your love, your unwavering presence. And when that moment comes, you'll be stronger than ever, knowing that your value was never tied to their recognition. Your strength has always been yours, and it always will be. Living your legacy. Legacy. It's a word we often associate with the end of a journey, with something left behind after the dust has settled. But let me tell you this: legacy is not about what happens after you're gone. Legacy is what you're building right now, in every moment, with every choice, with every step you take. It's not something you leave behind, it's something you carry with you. And whether people see it or not, whether they appreciate it today or later, your legacy is undeniable. The truth is, the legacy you're creating isn't always obvious to the people around you. They may not notice the long hours you've put in to create opportunities for others. They may not understand the sacrifices you've made to ensure their comfort and success. They may not even feel the weight of your contributions because you've made it look so effortless. But make no mistake, your legacy is being built brick by brick through the integrity of your actions, the sincerity of your love, and the strength of your character. Now, here's the thing about legacy: it doesn't require an audience. It doesn't need applause, recognition, or validation. Your legacy is rooted in who you are and the values you stand for. It's in how you treat others, how you rise after every fall, how you pour into the people and the world around you. And whether or not anyone acknowledges it, your legacy is shaping lives. It's creating ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. But let's be honest, sometimes it's frustrating to feel invisible in the process. You're working hard, giving selflessly, and putting your heart into everything you do, and it feels like no one notices. You wonder if your efforts even matter, if the seeds you're planting will ever bear fruit. Let me remind you of something powerful. Legacy isn't about immediate results. It's not about quick wins or instant gratification. Legacy is about the long game. It's about planting seeds today that may not bloom until years down the road. And some of those seeds, you may never get to see them flourish, but that doesn't mean they won't grow. Think about the people who shape your life. Some of them may no longer be here, but the lessons they taught, the love they gave, the example they set, it's still with you. That's legacy. It's the impact that lingers long after someone is gone. And just as their legacy lives in you, your legacy will live in others. Here's where the shift happens. Instead of worrying about whether people recognize your efforts now, focus on living your legacy in the present. What does that look like? It looks like showing up as your best self, even when no one is watching. It means staying true to your values, even when it's hard. It means choosing kindness over bitterness, purpose over distractions, and courage over fear. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every act of love or strength, it all becomes a part of the legacy you're building. But let me tell you this: living your legacy isn't about perfection. You're going to stumble. You're going to have moments where you feel like giving up, where the weight of it all feels too heavy. That's okay. Legacy isn't about being flawless. It's about being real. It's about how you rise after the fall, how you learn from your mistakes, how you keep going even when the road gets rough. Your perseverance, your resilience, your willingness to keep pushing forward. That's the part of your legacy that will inspire others the most. And here's the beautiful thing about living your legacy. It's not just about you. It's about the lives you touch, the people you lift up, the example you set for those who are watching. Whether you realize it or not, someone is paying attention to how you handle life. They're watching how you navigate challenges, how you treat others, how you stay true to your path. And in doing so, you're planting seeds of hope, strength, and purpose in their hearts. But let's not sugarcoat this. Living your legacy also means knowing when to walk away. There will be times when the people around you don't value what you bring. They may take your kindness for weakness, your consistency for granted, your sacrifices as an expectation. And in those moments, you have to remember this: your legacy isn't tied to their recognition. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the life you're building or the boundaries you set. Walking away from spaces that no longer serve you isn't giving up, it's honoring your worth. And trust me, when you walk away, the impact of your legacy becomes even clearer. When you're no longer there to give, to guide, to pour into others, they'll feel the absence of your presence. They'll realize that what you brought into their lives wasn't ordinary, it was extraordinary. And by then, your legacy will speak for itself. Living your legacy also means staying focused on what matters most. It's easy to get caught up in trying to prove your worth, to chase recognition, to seek approval from people who may never give it. But the truth is, your legacy isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about staying aligned with your purpose. It's about doing what's right, even when it's not easy. It's about leaving this world better than you found it, one small act at a time. So don't wait for permission to live your legacy. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances, or the perfect acknowledgement. Start right now, right where you are. Show up as the person you're meant to be. Speak life into others. Build something that lasts. Because here's the truth: your legacy is already in motion. And when the time comes, whether it's tomorrow, 10 years from now, or long after you're gone, your legacy will be undeniable. The love you gave, the wisdom you shared, the light you brought into this world, it will all remain. People may not see it today, but they will. Time has a way of revealing the truth, and your legacy will shine brighter than anything temporary ever could. So, live boldly, love deeply, stand tall in your purpose, and know this: you don't have to wait until you're gone for your legacy to matter. It matters now, it matters today, and when the dust settles and they finally realize what you brought, they'll understand that your life wasn't just lived, it was a gift. Your legacy will speak louder than any words ever could, and it will echo through the hearts of those who were lucky enough to witness it. The weight of unspoken gratitude. Let's talk about the words left unspoken. Those thank yous that were never said, the "I appreciate you" that sat unspoken in someone's heart, and the recognition that came too late. Because the truth is, while you're here, giving, helping, showing up, it's easy for people to forget just how much you're doing. It's easy for them to overlook the weight you carry, the sacrifices you make, and the love you pour out day after day. People often don't realize the depth of what you bring to their lives until you're no longer there to give it. Here's the thing: gratitude is one of the most powerful acknowledgments someone can give, but so often it's delayed. It's only in your absence that people begin to fully understand the role you played in their lives. It's when the silence replaces your words, when the gap forms where your presence used to be, that they start to recognize just how much you meant to them. And while that realization might come too late for them, it's not too late for you to understand your own worth, to carry that awareness with you as you move forward. Think about the relationships in your life. How many times have you gone above and beyond for someone without expecting anything in return? How often have you been the rock, the steady, reliable presence that others leaned on in their time of need? Maybe you've been the one who listens when no one else does. Maybe you've been the one who gives without asking for anything back. Or maybe you've been the one who loves unconditionally, even when it wasn't returned in the same way. What happens when that kind of presence disappears? When you're no longer there to answer the late-night calls, to show up with unwavering support, or to be the one who fixes things? That's when people feel it. That's when the weight of unspoken gratitude becomes undeniable. Suddenly, they're faced with the absence of everything they once took for granted. The advice you offered, the kindness you showed, the strength you carried, it all becomes glaringly clear when it's no longer accessible. But let's shift the focus for a moment. Because while it's true that others may not recognize your value until you're gone, it's even more important for you to recognize it now. You don't need to wait for someone else to validate your worth. You don't need their gratitude to prove that what you've done matters. The love you've given, the effort you've put in, the impact you've made, it's all real, whether they acknowledge it or not. There's a powerful freedom that comes with understanding this. When you know your worth, you stop relying on external recognition to define your value. You stop waiting for the gratitude that may never come. And instead, you start to pour that same love, that same energy back into yourself. Now, let me tell you something else about unspoken gratitude. It's often born from complacency. When you're consistent, when you're dependable, when you're always there, people start to assume you always will be. They forget that you have limits, that you're human, that your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. And sometimes it takes stepping away for them to remember this isn't about being spiteful or playing games. It's about protecting your peace. It's about understanding that your energy is precious and you have every right to direct it where it's truly valued. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop pouring into places that leave you empty. And let's not overlook another important truth. Some people will never express their gratitude, not because they don't feel it, but because they don't know how to. They may not have the words or the emotional awareness to articulate what you've meant to them. But that doesn't mean your efforts were in vain. Sometimes, the impact you've made in someone's life is beyond what they can express. That's why you have to trust in the legacy of your actions. The kindness you've shown, the wisdom you've shared, the love you've given, it all leaves an imprint. Even if the gratitude is unspoken, the impact is undeniable. And that impact will continue to ripple through their lives, even if they don't acknowledge it to you directly. But let's bring this back to you, because while it's important to recognize the power of your presence, it's equally important to learn from the absence of gratitude. It's a reminder to set boundaries, to prioritize your own well-being, and to surround yourself with people who see and appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you do. Here's the truth. You don't have to keep giving to people who only take. You don't have to keep proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. And you don't have to wait for unspoken gratitude to be spoken. You have the power to reclaim your energy, to redirect your focus, and to invest in the spaces and relationships that pour back into you. When you do this, something amazing happens. You start to attract the kind of people who value you from the start, the ones who don't need your absence to realize your worth because they see it in your presence, the ones who express their gratitude openly, who celebrate your strengths, and who pour into you just as much as you pour into them. And for those who only realize your value once you're gone, let them. Let them sit with that realization. Let them feel the weight of what they lost. Because their delayed recognition doesn't diminish your worth, it only amplifies the truth of what you brought to their lives. So don't wait for gratitude to define your worth. Don't let the absence of recognition make you question the value of your presence. You are worthy, you are impactful, and you are enough. Whether they see it or not, carry this truth with you. Your life is a gift, and the love and energy you share with others are a reflection of that. But you don't owe that gift to anyone who doesn't cherish it. Protect your peace, honor your worth, and keep building the life you deserve. Because when you're gone, whether it's from a relationship, a situation, or a chapter of your life, they'll realize what you brought. And by then, you'll already be thriving in the next phase of your journey, stronger and more radiant than ever before.